Welcome back to Priority Traffic Podcast, where we gather around the virtual firehouse table to share actionable advice, tools, and tips that'll help you blaze a trail towards becoming the absolute best version of yourself. I'm your host, Chris, and a fellow firefighter who's on a mission to help our firefighting community thrive. And today, I'm thrilled to be joined by two incredible individuals who are making waves in the fire service world. Nick and Jim, the dynamic duo behind Firefighter Health and Wellness Conference in the beautifully exotic Beaver Creek, Ohio. These guys have not only mastered the art of putting together a fun and educational conference, but they've also got years of experience and expertise in the fire service that fuels their passion for firefighters' well-being. So grab your favorite mug of piping hot coffee and join us as we dive headfirst into the exhilarating concept of what it truly takes to create and host a conference that's tailor-made for firefighters like you and me. By the way, while I have your attention, if you believe as strongly as I do that first responders' health and wellness is absolutely crucial for our success, do me a solid and hit that like and subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on your notifications so you never miss an episode packed with wellness, performance, and personal growth insights. And hey, if you find what we do valuable, spread the word among your firefighting friends and communities. Let's ignite a movement together. Thanks once again for your unwavering support. Now without further ado, enjoy the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to Priority Traffic Podcast. I'm your host Chris, and today I have two awesome fellows with me, Nick Magoteaux and Jim Burneka. We are going to be discussing the conference of a lifetime, and I mean this with all due sincerity. It's going to be a lot of fun. Before we get into that, I'd like to introduce both of my guests today. Nick, how you doing, sir?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Glad to have you on the show. You've got quite the experience in the field. 15 years, correct?
Yeah, just a little bit over 15 years from corrections to 911 to fire and EMS. Kind of hopped around and did a little bit of everything.
Wow. How's that experience been on your body these days?
Well, definitely. So I'm currently retired from emergency services.
Okay.
Got a job in the private sector. I was injured in 2017, so just some after effects from that, and
Sure.
just all those years of wear and tear definitely don't help. But making it through day by day.
Well, good, sir. We're glad to have you here. And Jim Burneka, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Chris, you doing all right? I take it?
I'm feeling really good today.
All right.
Had a good workout session this morning, and I've been looking forward to chatting with you guys for a few days now, so it's pretty cool to have you both here.
Yeah, we're both glad to be here. This is
Absolutely.
Quite an honor.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. And it's my honor to host you guys. I do have one thing. Jim, you like to go by dad, husband, son, brother, and friend.
Yes. Yes.
On top of your long list of career accomplishments and endeavors.
Yeah, you're looking at my, I think that's my little bio I have in fire engineering. Yeah. And I think I have all the, what everybody likes to look at and see, all the fancy titles and everything I did. But when it really, really comes down to it, that bottom part, what you just mentioned, that's what really matters.
Mm-hmm. I really think that is the case. And a lot of times we lose our true self in our identity, at the fire station sometimes. And remembering that we are a dad, a husband, wife, sister, brother to a lot of other people is a really important thing to touch on. But before we dig in, Nick, can you give me a little bit more on your background? And you have an awesome nonprofit called Brothers Helping Brothers. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Brothers Helping Brothers was founded in 2014. So a few friends of mine, a friend of mine in the fire department named Art Springer ended up getting sick in 2014. Wasn't, kind of a innocuous thing at the time. Ended up getting hospitalized for it. And as all proud firefighters are, he would always tell us, "Oh, don't worry about me. I'll be fine." So against his will, myself and some of the guys at the fire department decided that we were going to, raise money for his medical bills.
Okay.
So unfortunately, as time went on, Art ended up passing away from his illness, which was later identified as the H1N1 flu. Art was a healthy 40-year-old guy in his 40s. So it was kind of a shock to all of us. So
Right.
what we ended up doing was parlaying our efforts into raising money for his 13-year-old daughter that he left behind. And in those efforts, we did we had shirts, we had a gun raffle, fish fry, all those types of things, and we were able to raise over $20,000 for his daughter's college fund. So we were really happy with that. One of the things that we did was we had these shirts, and they said "Brothers Helping Brothers" was like the front of it, and in the back, was like the Art Springer Memorial Fund and things like that.
Yeah.
So a lot of the guys that were helping with the fundraising were like, "This is a really cool name. We need to do something with it." So got to thinking. Art was very passionate about the fire service. He was a part-time job for him, but he put a lot of effort and time into it. We both worked at a small department. The town had like 500 people in it. We didn't have a whole lot of money to do anything. So oftentimes he would buy equipment on his own and bring it into the department. We'd refurbish it and then be able to use it at the fire department. So my thought process was like, well, let's, why don't we honor Art's memory by, providing tools and equipment to small and rural fire departments across America. So that's kind of how Brothers Helping Brothers started. And then as we progressed, we decided, hey, what's a good way to help raise funds and get our name out there? We started to do conferences and classes and things like that. And that's kind of been the birth, if you will, of the Firefighter Health and Wellness Conference too.
Absolutely. That's quite the honor to, or in memoriam to Art there. So that's pretty cool to keep his memory moving and having a positive impact on those rural fire departments. They struggle, and I don't think a lot of people understand that fire departments across the nation aren't all the same. We don't all have the same resources and opportunities. Do you mind touching on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I mean, through my travels, in these years that we've founded the organization, we go to all sorts of different departments. Most of the departments that we end up funding equipment for, have a budget of less than $100,000 a year. So, you got to imagine between insurance and fuel for the vehicles and things like that. There's not a whole lot of wiggle room left in that $100,000. So,
Not much.
Being able to provide them with new equipment, especially equipment that meets NFPA compliance standards, could be huge and can be a game changer for a lot of these departments. So, we've been to some, like I said, that have a $20,000 budget. We specifically keep in mind those departments that don't have the means to necessarily fund for the latest and greatest equipment. So we try to provide them with stuff that is sustainable. Whether it be hand tools or
Right.
auto extrication cribbing or helmets and boots. We've over the past 9 years, we've done right around I think 16 or 17 different departments. So whether that be new equipment or used equipment, just trying to pass it along as best as we can. So, and as you probably know, firefighting equipment, anytime you talk about the government and purchasing things, it's usually at a higher rate. So
Yeah.
what we try to do is we try to negotiate with the dealers and the manufacturers of the equipment so that we can allow our dollar to stretch a little bit further,
Sure.
and provide more equipment than they may have needed or requested, things like that, and then allows us to continue to help more departments. So we have a good relationship with a few manufacturers and dealers that where we get 50% off retail pricing or things like that, or sometimes they'll seek us out and say, hey, listen, we've got, this tick that's was a demo, we just need to get rid of it. How much would you give us for it? So it's nice to have those relationships, so that this way, not only are we getting the department something they need, but we're able to stretch our dollar even further and be able to provide more tools and equipment for more departments that way.
Well, I think what you're doing is quite the service to the fire service in general. Is there any way that the general public or people within the firefighting community can help support your effort here?
Yeah, absolutely. We're a nonprofit, a 501c3 nonprofit, and we're always accepting donations, things like that. You can find out more information from our website, which is brothershelpingbrothers.org. From there, they can donate or find our address to send in a check or any of that information. We're always looking to find people that are willing to help us out and further our mission.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for all the work you are doing to support the departments across the country. Jim, you are also a co-creator of the Firefighter Health and Wellness Conference that's going to be in exotic Beaver Creek, Ohio.
Chris, I got to tell you, man, all I really wanted was a free lunch by Nick. And, here we are 6 years later, and we've worked together a lot since then on these conferences. But, Nick reached out to me initially as just, I think, to be one of the speakers regarding cancer.
Okay.
And we sat down and we talked, and he started laying everything out. And he was, Nick at that time, I think, was really innocent and naive. But I think a lot of people would have been that way. Like, you think that, like, in the firefighter cancer world, everybody gets along and we're all in the same mission, but there's a lot of weird dynamics and relationships intertwined there of people that don't like this person, so on and so forth. Sure. So I had to kind of break it down to him at lunch and open up his eyes to the craziness that really shouldn't be there, but yet it is. And before you know it, I end up being like the guy in charge of the cancer side of the conference initially.
Oh, wow.
And so helped Nick kind of book everything for that first year. And then after that, it was like we realized that we worked really well together and we actually became friends out of this whole thing. And I think that has really helped this whole relationship, 6 years later.
Yeah, and you've had quite the experience in the fire service as well. You worked for Dayton, Ohio Fire Department. That's not a small department.
No, it's smaller than it was when I started. That's for sure.
Yeah. I think
it
seems common.
400 plus guys, and now it's somewhere around 300.
Wow.
And we're busier than ever. That's the, do more of less. That's what every fire department does, but it definitely is for us.
Absolutely. And I also have in my notes here that you served as the local 136 health and safety coordinator. Can you tell me more about that? That seems like a pretty interesting position.
Chris, I've had all sorts of titles, all sorts of different things. But yeah, at the end of my career there in Dayton, I was the union health and safety guy, which also made me the peer support coordinator.
Okay.
And at the same time, actually, the department created a 40-hour spot as the wellness coordinator and put me in it. So I was balancing this weird line that I knew that was going to bite me in the butt eventually. But
sure,
trying to be the health and safety guy for the department and also the union. In one way, it made things really easy. Like I just had to have an argument with myself to get a lot of things done. But on the other hand, it definitely was a conflict and in the end made things difficult.
Okay. Which would you have rather taken, the city side or the union side, as far as productivity and ability to make things happen?
I mean, you need the management side of things a lot of times to make things happen. You can only do so much on the union side. You need to have management's buy-in for a lot of this stuff. I mean, I don't. When it comes down to it, I'm a union guy.
Yeah.
I just feel like that is the more righteous side of things, and then it gets away from the politics, and you're really just trying to take care of the members.
Right.
And I got really told at the end that I was too union.
Okay.
And which to me, I don't know if there's such a thing necessarily. I don't think I was waving this huge flag, but like
right.
what it meant is what I cared about my members. I cared about the people.
Mm-hmm.
And if that makes me too union, then so be it.
I guess I'm
too union. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Not only are you a union guy, but you were the peer support coordinator, and you created the wellness program. I mean, how far into your career did you start creating these things? Because where I'm at, we're just now getting to having a peer team. Like, it's in its infancy. We've got some people selected. Like, how did that experience come about for you?
I'd already been involved in the firefighter cancer world going all the way back to 2006.
Okay.
When I started the Ohio chapter of the Firefighter Cancer Support Network.
Gotcha.
So I was already doing a lot of things. That was kind of my door into the wellness world, was just really based off of cancer. And over the years, and especially I think even with this conference, I think that helped. Mm-hmm. I just kind of broadened my interest into all different things wellness for the fire service. And the union met with management a couple years back, and we really implemented the whole WFI. So the physicals, the peer support team, and also the peer fitness trainers all ended up coming on board, and really just trying to maintain that wellness so where, with the idea of having a healthy career, but also having a healthy retirement.
Yes.
I always talk about what's the point of putting all this 25, 30 years into this fire service career just so you can retire and then, get sick and die a year later.
Yeah, there's a lot to that. And, I think that's one of the things that your conference, the two of your conferences, probably going to start helping people realize is we are firemen, and this job can break us down, but it's really our responsibility to start fighting against that. And, the average lifespan of firemen is on average 10 to 15 years shorter than the average human. And I think we need to start fighting to get those years back. And that really brings us to, your conference. And before we dig in too deep, I'd like to understand, what it takes to put a conference together. And, how does this even happen? Because it's got a lot of top-notch speakers, the keynote speakers. I'm excited to go. Seriously.
Yeah. So, I mean, it all, from where we are today, for where we were 6 years ago, are two vastly different conferences. The first conference we did, so kind of how this all came about was, personally myself, I was promoted to lieutenant in an early age, if you will, in my career. Okay. And, the best guidance I got from the department was, well, here's your new helmet. Here's where you sit. Good luck to you. That's really about the long and short of it. Right. So,
yeah.
I decided, I needed to really invest myself and to figure out what it takes to do this, be a lieutenant and things like that. So, I went out and started taking classes, whether it be locally or the National Fire Academy. I ended up stumbling upon what's called Command Officer Boot Camp in Florida, down in Pensacola Beach, put on by a group called the 20 Fire Tactics. And while attending that, I was like, it was, I believe, their second year of doing that conference. And, there was quite a bit of people there. There was, let me say, maybe 125 folks. And, sitting back and the content was engaging. I was really, all about what the guys were, presenting and things like that. And B, I was like, man, this is actually, I could probably do this back at home, stupidly saying that. Right. So, while I was there, one of the speakers there, I got up and decided to talk to him, and I ended up, working out, not then and there, but, bringing him to Ohio to put on a 1-day class. type deal. And so that was kind of my first foray into doing these classes and conferences. And
Okay.
so I kind of got my feet wet in that way. And then, as we started doing what was called a fire or fire and EMS conference, doing broader topics, I saw the need out there for, this was 2018. So, firefighter cancer was kind of a hot topic. It was, what was really starting to break out, and people wanted to know more knowledge about it. But there was little to no talk about mental health. So,
Right.
my thought process was like, well, why don't we do a conference, make it affordable so that anybody can attend, and we'll talk about cancer to bring them in, and we'll shove mental health down their throats. Bring in something that they want to hear, and give them something they need to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And obviously that's where I met. Ended up meeting Jim, and Jim and I started to work together on this. And what we kind of did in that first conference, it was kind of unique. It was $5 to attend.
Yeah.
So, anybody could afford $5, right? I mean, I would hope so. Yep. Not only did it, get you into the conference for the 2 days, it got you food, lunch both days, things like that. So,
oh, nice.
We worked with sponsors to kind of, bring in, be able to pay for everything basically. And so it worked out really well. We were able to kind of intertwine the two topics where we, like you have a cancer speaker and then a mental health speaker and then a cancer speaker. And so this way, like you couldn't necessarily just say, oh, well, the first day is going to be cancer. I'm going to stick around for the first day, and the second day I'm going to, head out. We kind of made it meticulously that way that, you kind of had to hear both messages if you wanted to get the whole effect. So the first year was, obviously very successful, being at a very low price. So what we ended up doing, we were partnered with a hospital network at the time. That they hosted it, they provided food, things like that. So we started to, shop around. There's in our area in Dayton, there's two competing hospital networks, and they vehemently hate one another. So you kind of, you make that easy on yourself of, trying to pit them against one another. So,
Sure.
The other hospital network decided that they wanted to bring us in and sponsor the conference. And so the second year, we were able to kind of do a little bit more. We were able to bring in bigger speakers, things like that. We were able to, provide better stuff. We had more sponsors, so on and so forth. So, and then it's just kind of evolved day in, every year after that. So, we always provide, feedback forms to all the students because, we want to make sure that we're providing the best conference possible. So each year we go through those and decide how we're going to tweak next year's conference and make it just that much better. And I think, over the, this year being our 6th year, we've kind of gotten to the point where I think we've managed to establish ourselves as a pretty unique conference because we look at it a different way too. And, because like you could go to FDIC, fortunately where we are in Ohio, Indianapolis is only like an hour and 15 minutes away. So you can go to FDIC or you can go to Firehouse Expo, which is an hour away to us in Columbus. There's a lot of educational, opportunities out there, but a lot of times you can't afford it yourself. Pass to FDIC just to do the lectures is, $300+.
Wow.
Same thing with Firehouse. So we wanted to be kind of a alternative, if you will, where we've consistently had lower prices, so that even if you had to pay your own way to come, you could come and it wouldn't be a whole lot out of your own pocket.
Absolutely. So Jim, when you guys started this, was there a time where you're like, wow, this is actually going to work? You remember a moment where before you were kind of thinking that I hope people show up, and then a point where you're like, we have something here?
That's a good question, Chris. I'd say the second year it was like, oh wow, we're here, and there's a lot of people here, and almost the kind of, yeah, we've made it. Like there's, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
And it was really after that second year, I'd say, ever since then, we've had a pretty good crowd. And it's kind of, Nick talked about being the alternative. I think it's kind of funny looking back, because I remember that second year in particular. Like, I wanted, for whatever reason, I wanted to be like those FDICs and those firehouses, and
Sure.
I wanted to be professional, and I wore a suit, and Nick wore a sports jacket, and we played the game, and I think we both. I mean, Nick, I was already there, but I kind of woke up after that and was like, we don't need to be that professional. We can actually do this and have fun and be ridiculous, still be pretty deep with a lot of these discussions, but yet at the same time have fun and create an atmosphere that is just unique and special. And it's hard to even explain. It's almost like you have to be there, but it is an intimate setting. There's lots of networking, and it's just, there's a lot of just good people and just love throughout that room. It's just, you'll see it this year when you're there. It's just special. Like, and I would tell Nick each year, like, this is my last year doing it. This is my last year. And every year I get suckered back into it, to the point now where it's like, I don't even bother saying that anymore, because I know I'm in. As long as he wants to do it, I'm going to do it, because, I mean, within the first one or two presentations, something usually happens. There's a moment there. And Nick and I will look at each other and we're like, all the work we did last year, it's already paid off.
Yeah.
We're already good. Like, Nick and I don't get paid anything for this. Our payment truly is passing all this information on and making these firefighters better, which makes their family life better, which, and also it just bleeds and goes down and down and down, the trickle effect, It ends up helping the citizens that these guys and gals protect.
Yeah, there's something to be said for improving on an individual level that enhances everything else. If we can invest in ourselves on a wellness level, right, I think that's going to lead to us being better people, being better dads, fathers, brothers, sisters, wives. But that also carries over into our career, where we're starting to elevate, and now we're looking at things different. Maybe we're getting a little sleep. Maybe we're getting hydrated. And I think, having conferences like we do, and then having one that's accessible, not an FDIC, because we don't want to be an FDIC. Like you guys, obviously, that's its own thing. Firehouse is its own thing. And I think, what would you say that's something that makes you stand out in a pretty obvious way from all of these other conferences?
I mean, the main thing is affordability. I mean, by far, that is probably the best thing about us. But then I just think our style too. To get the speakers that we get and be able to supply them at the rate we do, $75 for 3 days. I mean, that's huge, and it's hard. Like I haven't seen anybody that's really been able to kind of compare to what we do with that. But then again, like, just that atmosphere, like it just the ridiculousness of the whole thing. Like, again, exotic Beaver Creek. I live here, and I will tell you, there's nothing exotic about it. It's just a silly joke that we came up with. I don't remember how we came up with it, but I mean, when you do these Nick was talking about his Pensacola conference that he went to. Like, a lot of these conferences are Florida or Vegas or somewhere really nice and tropical, and we are definitely not that. So that's kind of the running joke.
Right.
And each year too, we try it. We have a different theme each year. So we've done the tropical theme. We've done the Vegas theme. This year's going to be Hollywood themed. And we already got next year's figured out, and I'm not going to spoil it, but it's going to be it's gonna be fun.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
but like this year at the conference we'll have the red carpets and we'll have
nice.
the stanchions and the 8-foot Oscars and all this. I mean, it's gonna be just again silly and ridiculous, but yet at the same time really deep,
Yeah.
sometimes dark,
Sure.
but certainly powerful. Like, you just kind of have to, I guess, trust me and trust Nick to, and you'll be able to vouch for it here.
Yeah.
Just a month and a half from now.
Yeah, I'm super excited to attend, and there's 3 days, so it's October 25th, 26th, and 27th, right?
Yes.
And then
Right.
each day has its own little special nuggets. But would you be able to run me through a basic day at the conference, like when it starts? I know there's morning activities, and then there's even some videos that we can witness live as well.
Do you want me to
Yeah,
go, Nick,
so-
or you want to do it?
I can do it. So yeah, each morning we do have the should be Wednesday and I believe Thursday. We're going to have morning yoga available. We'll have a prayer service. We'll have warrior meditation and Friends of Bill W meeting if anybody needs that as well. So we kind of start off, as soon as you kind of come to the conference, you can start really immersing yourself in new and different things. So, like the yoga, for example, it's not necessarily, you don't have to be experienced to do it.
Right.
We're fortunate that a friend of ours from Indianapolis, he teaches it. He's a yogi, master yogi himself, but he provides it in a way that you can, if you want to start doing yoga, you can start doing yoga, at the conference. So,
Absolutely.
so like our first day, we have a little bit of an opening ceremony, kind of housekeeping items, talking about everything like that, and then we kind of start off the bat with Brian Frieders from the Firefighter Cancer Support Network. So
Nice.
we have two keynote speakers this year. We have Brian, and we also have Brendan McDonough from Granite Mountain Hotshots. He'll be the keynote speaker for our Thursday session. So, and then typically, we kind of we go. We have one speaker. We usually do about a 15-minute break in between speakers, and kind of go from there. So, then the other interesting portion of the conference this year is we're going to be screening two movies afterwards as well. So the first night we'll be screening Only the Brave, which is a movie based on the Granite Mountain Hotshots, and Brendan is actually going to be there afterwards to do kind of a Q&A. And
Nice.
the fun, well, not fun part, but I guess interesting part about it. So, as the movie ends on June 30th, 2013, Brendan's presentation really starts July 1st, 2013. That's where his headspace is when he starts his presentation. So, kind of talks about his post-traumatic growth from that, the side effects of what had happened, and things like that as well. So, very interesting. I think it's going to be very poignant. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that movie previously, but it definitely is it could be a little bit of a tearjerker. It's
Sure.
definitely
It's heavy.
powerful.
It's really it's heavy.
I mean, given the concept and the topic, I can only imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was. I mean, it was one of those. It was one of those movies for me where I went in my garage for the next probably hour, 2 hours, and just screw it off and try to take my mind off things. Like it was.
Sure.
It's some deep stuff there.
Wow. And so that'll be screened that evening, October 25th, and then you have on October 26th, you'll be screening Burned, Protecting the Protectors. Can you give me a little background on that?
Yeah, Jim, if you want to hit that one.
So that's all about that really revolves around PFAS and our fire gear, and really it's coming from the perspective of Diane Cotter, who I mean, I remember the first time I got an email from her. Who's this crazy lady from Massachusetts? And she is, in fact, crazy. But she was right. Here's the thing. She was right. And I love her dearly. Because she really put all this stuff on a map. And against all, I mean, there's so many manufacturers and so many, I mean, even the IFF, screwed with her and played this off like this isn't significant. And, but her, not giving up and just trying to figure this out really led her to Dr. Graham Peasley from the University of Notre Dame. And he was able to verify that, in fact, this stuff is in our fire gear. And it kind of just blew up from then and to the point now where, the end of this year, we'll finally be able to have fire gear that is PFAS free. So, and it's really all because of her and her advocacy. So, and we're going to show that movie. It's a short movie. It's only about 30 minutes, but it's another powerful piece. And we're going to have a great panel directly afterwards. Graham Peasley from Notre Dame will be there. Jason Burns, who was a Fall Rivers firefighter and also district vice president for the IFF, will be there. Rob Balot, who, talk about PFAS and blowing things up. The movie Dark Waters is based off of him. The documentary The Devil We Know, his book Exposure. He's the one that really took it to DuPont initially. I forget what his title was in Time magazine, but it was like the man that took on DuPont or something like that. But he's going to be there. It's just going to be a tremendous, not just movie, but just panel afterwards to talk about this. And I even like it even more because we know this Beaver Creek's a suburb of Dayton. Okay. Dayton, has two big gear manufacturers there. And one in particular was really the one who started all this stuff and got it in our gear. So I kind of love being able to just kind of talk crap about them right there.
Yeah, I think we've traveled to Ohio to spec out gear in the past couple of years, so I get it. And trying to get rid of this stuff is one thing, and it's really putting a little stress in the back of people's mind when they put their gear on to go train. It's like, am I exposing myself? What should I be doing? And the boots on the ground aren't sure what to do. And my department's seeing people not wanting to put their gear on more than they have to, and other people saying, well, it's just do it. It doesn't matter. Hopefully we can in the next year or two find out what we should be doing and find a way to get PFAS-free gear. So it sounds like we're getting close to that.
Yeah. It's finally here, finally happening. But it was a heck of a fight to get to this point.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And thank God we found out about it. I didn't hear about PFAS till 2 or 3 years ago. So I'm super excited to know that we can be ridding ourselves of another exposure that we really didn't even know was there. So another thing I wanted to talk about for the conference, I see you do have I'm a weightlifter. I'm not a big bodybuilder or anything. I like to physically train, but you guys have one of the top power lifters in the country and world for that matter, Matt Wenning. How did you guys get such a powerhouse when it comes to strength and conditioning?
Well, so what's interesting, I saw Matt's presentation in Kentucky last year, and at first, I didn't know anything about him. I think he was even like the last speaker of the day. So it was, it was a long day of speakers and stuff like that. But, I sat through his presentation, and it was really actually one of the more riveting presentations at the conference. Just because, so he's out of Columbus, which is fortunate for us, but he's worked with several area Columbus fire departments that to help with strength and conditioning. And his presentation is just very intriguing. He breaks it down to, dollar amounts that the fire departments are saving by, having a strength and conditioning program for their firefighters, and how much that's saving for, workers' comp and things like that. So it's definitely a very interesting subject. We always are talking about fitness and things like that, but I think sometimes we neglect that strength and conditioning portion, as part of being a tactical athlete. So having him, I think, especially, some of his pedigrees, especially, him being a power lifter for so many years and on a world stage, and not to have had his knees blown out or things like that, is a testament to his programs. And I think that'll be something just as equally interesting, part of his presentation too.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of his YouTube videos. He's a super genius when it comes to this stuff. And I think getting, obviously being physically fit in the fire service is super important. And it's one of those things that goes along with mental health and wellness. But having someone of his pedigree in front of firefighters, I think is super cool. So I have to say, I personally really appreciate that. And I'm excited to get to see him. Another personal thing that I was really excited about is the live podcast. I know, Jim, you actually run a podcast as well. Before we talk about the live podcast, can you tell me about your podcast a little bit?
Sure. I've been doing the podcast and stuff for about 4 years now. It started with, initially it was the 25 Live, and I was doing a weekly podcast, health and wellness. And I did that really, I would say, up until my cancer diagnosis. I would have a guest, every week and go over all sorts of stuff. And when I had my cancer diagnosis, that kind of became almost like a live diary. So there's some interesting episodes of there, just me, depending on where I'm at when I press record. I mean, there's, depressed, angry, I was, there was times in which I was like, I'm going to beat this. And, I went all over the place. It was a roller coaster. And it was around that time I realized that, like, doing a show a week was just unsustainable. It was too much, while trying to still be a career firefighter and, being a dad, and at the same time, like a little bit before then, I started, probably about 3 years ago, I started doing the fire engineering show. And that was just simply, that was once a month. So it was really 5 shows I was doing a month. And after the cancer, I just realized I can't keep this pace up. And the quality of the shows, I think, were kind of lacking because I wasn't really able to do as much homework. And I mean, you get that. You know how it is. Like, you want to be able to do a good job for your guest. It's really about your guest and getting whatever subject matter expert, whatever knowledge they have, getting that out there. And so I basically dropped the 25 Live and just do now this monthly, show on fire engineering, which is just like yours, a podcast and also a webcast at the same time.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I was checking it out, and it looks like you just interviewed Chris Moore, Captain Chris Moore, and I'm excited to sit down and enjoy that episode. I didn't want to watch it before I interviewed him, though, so I didn't want to cross-contaminate anything.
Well, and he'll be in exotic Beaver Creek, Ohio with you.
Yeah, so, he will.
Yeah. And, you were talking about alluding to the live show that we're going to do,
Yeah.
Before I started doing the health and wellness kind of stuff, it was really James Gehring from Behind the Shield.
Yeah.
He doesn't like it when I call him this, but he's the podfather when it comes to really health and wellness. And granted, it's also police, it's also military, but it's all really, to me, it's the same stuff. So he's been huge as far as just a positive influence for me, and somebody I know I could talk to about stuff. And I ended up being on his show, which was kind of weird, in itself, but was still a cool experience. And I talked to him. I talked him into coming here live, which is not something he typically does. He's not. He likes to be behind his microphone, but he likes to be in Ocala, Florida, with all the different resorts. Like my grandparents were from there, so I know the Publix and the on top of the hills and all these other crazy places. but we got them coming to Exotic Beaver Creek, and I'm really with a lot of the people that are coming in. They're friends of mine, and I'm definitely using and abusing them. So James is going to really be, taking place in two parts. So that first day, that Wednesday, he's going to be the host when it comes to doing kind of a peer support roundtable.
Okay, cool.
And so we've got, the former peer support lead from San Diego. We got Columbus as fire peer support. We've got Indianapolis, Norwich Township. We have Orlando's, and myself from Dayton. So
nice.
We're going to talk about the good and definitely talk about the bad about being in those positions. And then the very next day, and this really just came together last week. I mentioned the Orlando peer support guy.
Yeah.
Jeff Orange, tremendous guy. I'm going to use him. He's going to be in three different parts. So one of those is he's going to be with James. This is on Thursday afternoon now. And we're also going to have Raul Rivas from Orlando's SWAT team.
Yep.
And he was the guy that took out the shooter in Pulse.
Wow.
So James is going to basically get both perspectives from the police side and the fire side. Really just the incident itself and also really the aftermath. So it's going to be, I think, really cool to have those different perspectives and different roles in place.
Yeah. It really sounds like it's not just a fire conference. It's more of a bigger health and wellness conference. And I think that's really something that our peer support team, our health and wellness board in my department, we're trying to branch into. Well, maybe we can get more buy-in if we don't just focus on the fire department. Maybe we start incorporating the police department, and now we're spanning a little bit of a gap there. And I think what you guys are doing, having this live podcast about the Pulse nightclub shooting, is super, super cool, and I really am excited to be there for that.
A lot of the topics that we talk about do span not only to firefighters but police officers and even regular folks as well. So obviously we've branded it the Firefighter Health and Wellness Conference, but it's really, it could be for all first responders really, whether that's fire, EMS, corrections, 911. There's going to be useful information for anybody in public service. For now, there are a few speakers that are going to be more focused towards firefighting. Especially when we talk about cancer and things like that. But a lot of the mental health speakers, it's a universal message. We talk a lot about post-traumatic growth and how to get there, right? So it's and that's the hugest thing. Some of the people that we have talking, they've seen some of the darkest things in their life, but they've come out on the other side of it, and showing, talking about that and being the living proof that it can get better. That message of hope is big.
Absolutely. And real quick before we get too far, exoticbeavercreek.com is your website, correct?
It's not a porn site. It's for real.
It's real. I checked it out. I had to make sure I was at home when I looked it up. But no, guys, I'm super excited.
Go to the public library and do it. We'll see if it works.
Oh man. What kind of networking will the guests expect to be able to take advantage of while they're out there in Beaver Creek?
Well, one of the nice things about the conference is it is kind of like Jim said, it's more of an intimate setting. So our speakers don't oftentimes, sometimes you go to conferences and, speakers are in and out, right? They fly there, they do their thing, and they get the heck out, right? They're off to the next thing or whatever. One of the ways that we're different in that way is, a lot of times our speakers are hanging out, after the conference. And so not only do you get to have that networking with, necessarily, other first responders of a like-minded nature, but let's say you have a question for a particular speaker that maybe you didn't want to ask in front of everybody, right? Or something that, maybe that you relate with them in a more personal matter that you'd rather talk to them with one-on-one. We afford that opportunity for you to get to know the speaker in a more casual way. So it's nice that, you could have that afterwards interactions with them,
Mhm.
have a drink or whatever, and it's nice to be able to do that and not, that's one of the things that makes it unique, right? I mean, you don't go
Yeah.
to, typically you're not going to go to a big conference and be able to, sit down and have a beer with one of the speakers, nine times
Not
out of
typically.
10. But with ours, we do have those opportunities, and so that's one thing that definitely makes it different and nicer. That and that's the nice part. Like I can tell, like when Jim was talking about our quote unquote payment.
Hmm.
We've seen people reach out to some of the speakers and with their personal issues, and that speaker or expert's able to give them one-on-one advice right then and there, and
Sure.
or they tag us in and we're able to steer that person in a more appropriate direction. Whether it be with a clinician, at least get them on the pathway to where they need to be. Because I think, and I think Jim will agree. A lot of times we have the people that attend may not necessarily show that they're having some underlying issues, but
Right.
the conference is kind of their way of trying to figure it out, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so oftentimes, we have that ability to impact them, in a positive direction, whether it be, normally we have clinicians on site, that we work with that can at least get them in the right direction.
Hmm.
We have, obviously we ask, all our attendees, hey, are you part of a peer support? Would you be willing to, be a peer supporter at the conference? Are you a chaplain? Would you be willing to help, if need be? And I'd say overwhelmingly, most of the people that are those in those demographics, they're willing to help out as well. So we'll be able to identify and say, hey, listen, if you need help, this is the person, this is a peer that you could talk to, or this is, a chaplain or something like that. If Because I mean, obviously we talk about some very deep subjects, and sometimes that can rattle some things loose that you
Sure.
need to have that support right then and there, and we're able to work towards get them, point them in the right direction at least.
Absolutely. I think there's something about having all those people in the same space. You can feel the energy. You kind of feel safe. There's that emotion that comes over when someone's talking, and sometimes things just bubble up to the surface, and you either break down and cry, or however that expresses itself. But having that opportunity to be so close to the clinicians and maybe have a conversation face to face with someone right away is got to be pretty relieving and probably feel pretty awesome. Do you have anybody who in the past years has had that opportunity to have that life changing experience, and have they let you know at all?
Well, I will say so. Like last year was just something truly special. I mean, it was so
Yeah.
special that even like the speakers that we had kind of realized in the moment that this was something unique and special. And so we had last year we had the founder of Save a Warrior, and he had two open spots in his next cohort,
Okay.
and which I mean, while they are free, there is kind of a waiting list to get in there and do
Yeah.
that program. So for him to have those spots, and I think it was like a week or two after the conference they was having the cohort. So it was very pivotal, and he was so passionate about what he talks about. He's
Hmm.
like, listen, I've got these two spots. Who wants them? And we were able to fill those two spots right then and there at the conference.
Oh
And
wow.
just knowing that those two people, were willing to come about and say, hey, I think I do need help. and B, take advantage of his offer, is massive. Is massive. I mean, and then like I said, we hear, we don't necessarily see all the benefits of the conference.
Sure.
We do hear things. So we know that, things are working out. Like last year we had Travis Howells, and
Yeah.
if you've ever listened to any of his stuff or been in person with him, very dynamic speaker and very real. And, he kind of told us like, hey, I had somebody, that sat in my car with me for an hour and just broke down and cried. And I was able to help them, with what I was talking about. And truly, I think that, any speaker, that comes to our conference, I feel would be more than honored to have that happen to them. And again, that's what it's all about, right? We're getting those people, we're breaking down those barriers so that people can feel comfortable, feel safe to be open like that. And last year was definitely the crowning achievement of that. Like it was, even we had even vendors remark that they felt like the energy was something different, and that it was a safe environment that you could be vulnerable with others and have and not worry about repercussions of that being that vulnerable.
Yeah, there's definitely something about feeling that energy and being vulnerable, and I think on a micro scale, what you guys are creating is what we would like to see on a grand scale within the fire service and likely at a universal level where men are allowed and supported to work through these things, because there's so much stigma attached to someone raising their hand, being vulnerable, crying, saying I need help. And one of the things that on this podcast I try to promote is, as firemen, we're professional on so many levels. And one level that I'd like to see more firemen get trained up on and get able to do is when they need help, right? Like being able to have two people fill those spots on their own admission, like that's a sign of progress. Because maybe 5, 10, 15 years ago, nobody's standing up to say, hey, I need help. They're waiting until things are really, really bad, and they're found in some certain circumstance to have not reached out. So I think what you guys are doing is huge in regards to offering to fill spots like that right on site. But that just really touched me. And Jim, you're pointing out the goosebumps. I had the goosebumps too, because I could feel like just during this conversation that you guys are doing something magical. And again, I can't wait to get out there. How can the people who have maybe attended in the past, but anybody who can't make it, is there any access they have to this conference, virtual or anything like that?
Unfortunately, no. We've been approached in the past to do like a virtual option and things like that, but we find it, for one, we, with the way that our model is as far as funding the conference and things like that, we really benefit more from an in-person model.
Sure.
The way that we are able, Jim and I kind of have to do a dance, if you will, when it comes to the conference, where we have 3 individual people that we're trying to. 4 individual people that we're trying to please, right? We want to make sure that the students, the attendees that come, they are having they have a good time, right? That they are finding the information that we're providing is valuable, and they're able to take that back to their, to their respective firehouse or wherever. 2, we have to make sure that, the vendors, and the vendors are really our biggest allies in this. The vendors are what makes it so that we're able to charge so little and still be able to provide top-notch speakers. Without the vendors, we wouldn't be here.
Right.
So making sure that the vendors are happy that they're getting those interactions with the the attendees and they're finding it to be a valuable asset to them is important to us as well.
Sure.
3 is, our hotel partner. We've been truly fortunate with the hotel that we're with right now. So we did do a conference in 2020. We were able to pull it off where we had social distancing, masking, the whole
Sure.
9 yards. I feel like we were probably one of the few that probably did this. But with that, we were able to effectively save the hotel from going out of business.
Nice.
So the hotel has just been, the hotel bends over backwards for us. And they allow us to have outside food. They allow us to, and they charge us little to nothing to put on our conference there. So we're always trying to make sure, like, we want to make the hotel happy too, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have, are there plenty of drinks? We encourage people to, if they're going to buy food or something like that, buy it at the hotel,
Right.
give back to the people that are giving to us, right? So, and then who would you say is the 4th one, Jim?
The attendees.
Well, attendees was the first one.
Oh no,
Students.
the speakers.
Oh, yes. Well,
Sorry.
that's true too. Yeah, making sure, because
Yeah.
we pride ourselves on our reputation with speakers too. We
Yeah.
take them. We're making sure we're picking them up from the hotel or picking them up from the airport, taking them to the hotel. We want this to be a seamless,
Yeah.
easy thing for them to do because, referrals is huge for us, especially with speakers. It's been interesting. Like some of the speakers that we've had in the past will actually vouch for us and tell other speakers like, hey,
Yeah.
or they'll reach out to us, say, hey, you should talk to so and so. Like last year was a good example. Like we were talking about Mike Gigliano from Seattle.
Yeah.
He suggested that we talk to Mike Dugan from FDNY. Those two have a friendship. They actually even have their own podcast on fire engineering. He's like,
Yeah.
Mike would be a great person to talk at your conference. So he, got us in touch with Mike. Mike got what we were talking about. He was very, understanding and was passionate about what we were doing. And he came and spoke last year, which, having somebody of that caliber, essentially a legend within the FDNY, come and talk. And he doesn't talk often about, the health and wellness portion of his career, but having him there and being able to talk about, and being honest about trying to find a clinician and trying to find, the right thing for him, it was huge. So, being able to take, help those instructors, our speakers and making sure that they have a good time as well is just as paramount as everybody else too. So that's the kind of balancing act that we do.
Nick and I have attended so many conferences throughout the years.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think we know what we like as attendees. I know what I like when I go and speak. I know how I want to be treated, and we really try our best to, take care of everybody involved. Nick's a vendor. I've been a vendor before. All these different areas. Like we just know how we want to be treated, so we treat everybody that way as well. And I think just that effort and that mindfulness regarding it is kind of separates us from a lot of places when it comes to that.
Yeah, and serving obviously your students or your attendees and the vendors, but the people who are taking time out of their day to come speak I think it's very important to do, but it also puts them at ease where they can allow their guard to come down, like you were saying, and make those connections and be vulnerable with the people in the audience, because it kind of removes a barrier, where there's this person's elevated in stature. They're a legend amongst the fire service. And you've got people like me who are just, small town firefighters, and being able to be close to those people and know that they're not just like getting out of a limo and leaving, it's kind of cool. I can appreciate that. Speaking of getting in and out of limos, how does the registration work for this this conference? How can people get tickets, get signed up, get on board and show up to this?
Yeah, so everything is on our website, which, like you said before, was exoticbeavercreek.com. Down at the bottom of the page is where you can sign up for tickets. Currently, right now, ticket prices for all 3 days is $150. But spouses, we got a sponsor from the National Alliance of Mental Illness, the Frontline Wellness Team. They've sponsored all spousal tickets, so
Nice.
You're able to bring your spouse for free. So really, I mean, when you think about it, it's essentially like $75 for 2 tickets, right? But
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I mean, we're encouraging all spouses to come. It's like I said, if you go to the website, you'll see all the speakers, see the lineup of events that is going on, be able to watch trailers about the movies that we're going to be presenting, and then you can buy tickets directly off the website.
Yeah, and Friday you guys have a special thing, special portion of a workshop going on. You mind giving me a little bit of a heads up on that too?
Yeah, so Friday is going to be a half day. So from 8 to noon, we're going to do spousal significant other workshop with DAMI, Frontline Wellness Team. So kind of talking about more or less the tips and tricks, if you will, of being either married to a first responder or being a first responder in a relationship. It's definitely going to be unique in that aspect. That's a unique subject matter. So,
Heck yeah! You guys, speaking of unique subject matter, what are some of the controversial topics that our listeners or the attendees might be able to pick up on?
Well, so this we always try to. Kind of funny how you mentioned controversial. We've always, Jim and I have always kind of, I guess, prided ourselves in talking about subjects that we want to talk about what's going on in the industry, obviously,
Right.
but we're going to talk about stuff that may not necessarily be mainstream.
Still considered taboo.
Yeah. So like a couple years ago, what was it, 2 years ago, we did a whole day on the PFAS, the forever chemicals.
Right.
And interesting part about that, we actually lost sponsors because of that.
Oh no.
But that's fine. We wanted to present the information and let the audience decide what they do with it. But as far as this year goes, we're going to be talking about marijuana, medical marijuana, and CBD in the fire service. So I would expect probably people from your state, that's probably a high interest thing because of recreational use being legalized in Michigan.
Yep.
Here in Ohio, I know that that's on the ballot starting November. So there's talks about that already in the fire chief realm of how are we going to tackle this. But there's a lot of can be a lot of benefits for CBD and THC in the fire service. And interesting enough, so Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, they even have it outlined in their contract that they're able to use medical marijuana. So
Oh wow.
We'll have a representative from Pittsburgh. We'll have Stephanie White. She's kind of been the tip of the spear, if you will, of this issue. And then John Voight, who runs Rescue One CBD.
Yep.
They'll do a panel discussion, really talking about the pitfalls, the success stories. I mean, really all the nitty gritty when it comes to medical marijuana and CBD in the fire service. So it should be definitely interesting to say the least, because it's a really emerging topic as it gets more and more legal in different states, and B, understanding the benefits of the CBD when it comes to, using it for whether it's aches and pains or, PTSD or however you want to use it in that way too.
Sure. Well, that should be an interesting conversation, and I can't wait to hear that. Do you guys have anything we might have missed, or any sponsors that you want to give a shout out to, or how can somebody maybe become a sponsor or help further the conference?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do have a sponsorship package that we send out to vendors that are interested in either participating or being a part of the conference. If that's something that if somebody in your audience is interested in, they can contact us basically through the website or Brothers Helping Brothers website. Just contact us at brothershelpingbrothers.org, and I'll be able to get about the information that they would need. But yeah, I mean, like I said, for us, it's we hope that we can get as many people as possible to share this message. Typically we get a lot of firefighters in their older part of their career, so we're really pushing, and we really hope to bring in a lot of the younger firefighters, newer recruits, people that are interested in going to the fire service. We shouldn't necessarily. I know that sometimes people worry about talking about these types of subjects, especially to newer recruits, because it might scare them off. But really, I think it's all about providing that knowledge base. I mean, if you set yourself up for success in the beginning, you might not have the issues that some of us do, later on in life. So it's all positive. It's all part of being a better firefighter, being a better person, like you said before. Yeah,
and that reminds me. So I've got a quote where you prioritize wellness and realize performance. Right, when we start investing in ourselves on the front end, and as recruits, I think that's the best place to start. You give them these tools, the health and wellness toolkits, all of the stuff that they need. Maybe we don't, slam it home right away, but give these guys the tools they need to make a 25-year career. And I think we're going to see better firemen. We're going to see healthier firemen, firefighters, and I think we're going to see more people pushing back the average. And I think that's one thing we're trying to fight, is that average 10 to 15 years that we lose by being in this career due to all the detriments and demands of this job. I think it's our job to start taking those years back. So, I am super excited to head out and check out this conference. Again, it's October 25th, 26th, and 27th in Exotic Beaver Creek, Ohio. Right? You can go to exoticbeavercreek.com, check out the website. There's links to hotels. There's all the speakers, all the fun stuff's going to be happening there. Gentlemen, I really, really appreciate your time. But before I let you go, I have one thing that I like to do, and this being Priority Traffic Podcast, I'd like to get your hot take on what would be your priority traffic regarding health and wellness to the audience.
Go ahead, Nick.
Well, I think it's important, if you are struggling, if you need help, reach out for help. We've all been there. I know myself, I know Jim has, we've both have had our issues. But being able to speak out and say, hey, I think I need some help, or can you point me in the right direction, or it's hugely important. Don't give up. One of the things like, especially was one of the topics of last year is, when you start the journey of trying to find a counselor or a therapist or something like along those lines, the first person you find might not be the right person.
Right.
And being able to not give up after that first attempt is hugely beneficial. Because I know, a lot of us, I feel like, probably are one of those, I know I am. I could be, it's like, I tried it once, I got frustrated with it, I'm just over it, But giving giving it a chance, trying different people, trying to reach out to others and say, hey, what did you have success with, or who did you use? There are people out there. Not every therapist is for everybody. It takes different people to get what's going on, and more often than not, you'll be able to find somebody, but it might just take a few tries. So don't give up and keep plugging away.
Heck yeah. Jim, how about you?
Kind of just piggyback on what Nick said. I think a lot of us, though, in the fire service, there's really, we struggle a lot with shame and guilt and pride. And, you need to be able to get past all of that.
Yeah.
If you need help, those things get in the way of you getting better. Yep. And it takes a lot to realize that those just need to be moved to the side so you can get help. And the sooner you get help, the better off you're going to be. Right. It's a lot easier to talk one-on-one with a clinician an hour a week than, end up going to an IOP or doing an inpatient, 72 hours, or even going, Center of Excellence or Rosecrans or whatever it may be. If you can handle what's going on and do it early on, it's going to just make things so much easier and so much better as time goes on.
That's excellent. So guys, like you heard here, reach out for help. Don't give up. And when it gets heavy, reach out early. Don't wait. I think that's 3 really positive and powerful takeaways, other than the fact that we have an awesome Health and Wellness Conference coming to exotic Beaver Creek, Ohio. I just like saying that. It's pretty fun. Well, gentlemen, I was honored to sit down and chat with you today. I'm proud to help you promote and get the word out about your conference. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully we can sit down and have more discussions about health and wellness type stuff, and maybe we'll put something together next year where we can promo it again. So I really appreciate your time today.
No, thank you, Chris.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing you next month live in person.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a good time.
Yep.
Well, everybody, this is Chris and Priority Traffic Podcast. Big thanks to Nick and Jim for showing up today. I hope you guys all check out the episode. It's going to be a great time. Don't forget exoticbeavercreek.com for all of your information about the Firefighter Health and Wellness Conference. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Take care.
And that's a wrap for our special episode on the Firefighter Health and Wellness Conference in Beaver Creek, Ohio. We hope you feel inspired and motivated to take actionable steps towards improving your health and well-being. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. There are countless resources and support networks available if you're struggling. We're grateful to each and every one of you for tuning in and making this podcast a part of your routine. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. And stay tuned for our next exciting episode. Until then, stay safe, take care.